Have you ever woken up feeling inexplicably tired, foggy-headed, or like your heart is racing just to keep up, even after a full night's sleep? What if I told you that the innocent way you're drifting off each night, your pillow stack, that late-night feast, or even the warmth of your bedroom, could be silently sabotaging your heart's ability to rest, repair, and thrive as you age into your 60s, 70s, and beyond? In this video, we'll uncover 6 sneaky sleeping habits that seem totally harmless but are quietly spiking your blood pressure, disrupting your breathing, and wearing down your cardiovascular system without you even knowing it. Stick around until the end, because we're not just spotting the culprits. We'll dive deep into why they hit harder with age, what's really happening inside your body during those vulnerable hours, and the simple, game-changing tweaks you can make tonight to give your heart the deep, restorative break it desperately needs, potentially adding years of vitality to your life. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. Number 1. Sleeping on your back with your head too elevated. Many individuals, particularly those who appreciate the sense of openness and support it provides, gravitate towards sleeping on their backs as a preferred position. In fact, for certain people, this posture can offer genuine advantages, such as promoting better spinal alignment by distributing body weight more evenly across the mattress and reducing pressure points on the hips and shoulders. However, when this otherwise neutral stance is compromised by propping the head up excessively, think stacking 2 or more fluffy pillows, or relying on a bulky wedge pillow that tilts your upper body at a sharp angle, it introduces a subtle yet insidious strain on your cardiovascular system. This strain builds gradually, like a quiet undercurrent, potentially escalating into more pronounced health concerns as the nights accumulate. The mechanics behind this issue are rooted in the body's basic anatomy. Elevating your head at an overly steep incline creates a gentle but persistent compression in the neck and upper chest region. This awkward angle subtly narrows the pathway of your windpipe, or trachea, impeding the smooth, unrestricted flow of air during those deep, restorative breaths of sleep. As a result, even if you're not consciously aware of it, your body registers a dip in oxygen saturation levels. In response, your autonomic nervous system springs into action, signaling the heart to accelerate its rhythm and pump more vigorously to deliver oxygen-rich blood throughout the body. This manifests as a modestly elevated nighttime heart rate, perhaps a few extra beats per minute, and a corresponding uptick in blood pressure, both of which persist through much of the night. These changes might seem minor in isolation, but they pose a heightened risk for anyone already navigating heart-related challenges, such as atrial fibrillation, hypertension, or compromised circulation. For older adults, whose cardiovascular reserves are naturally more limited due to years of wear and tear, this added workload can tip the scales toward exhaustion, inflammation, and long-term remodeling of the heart muscle itself. What often allows this problematic habit to persist unchecked is its deceptive comfort in the initial stages. Countless people elevate their heads intentionally to alleviate common evening woes: the burning sensation of acid reflux that rises after a spicy meal, the stuffy congestion from seasonal allergies or a lingering cold, or simply a long-standing routine born from years of habit. In the moment, it feels like a smart fix. Propping up allows gravity to keep stomach contents in check, easing that immediate discomfort. Yet, this trade-off comes at a cost. It forces your body into a semi-upright posture that's far from ideal for optimal respiratory function, subtly shifting the dynamics of how air and blood move through your system. Beyond the immediate breathing challenges, there's a ripple effect on circulation that deserves attention. With your head and neck craned forward, even by just a few inches, the natural pathway for blood vessels, like the carotid arteries feeding the brain and the jugular veins returning blood to the heart, gets mildly kinked. In a vigorous young adult with elastic, resilient arteries, this positional tweak might go entirely unnoticed, absorbed without consequence. But as we cross into our later decades, arterial walls tend to stiffen and lose some of their flexibility due to factors like plaque buildup or natural collagen changes. Here, that same small deviation can amplify into noticeable disruptions: reduced cerebral blood flow during sleep, compensatory surges in cardiac output, or even fleeting episodes of orthostatic-like stress upon waking. To illustrate, consider Harold, a spry 74-year-old retiree with a passion for woodworking and weekend hikes. For as long as he could remember, he'd built a fortress of 2 or 3 pillows each night, convinced it was the key to soothing the chronic twinges in his shoulders from decades of manual labor. It felt luxurious, like a personal throne for slumber. But over the preceding year, subtle shifts crept in. He'd jolt awake around 3 a.m. with his heart pounding like a drum in his chest, his mouth parched as if he'd run a marathon in his dreams. Mornings brought a lingering fatigue that no amount of coffee could chase away. Dismissing it as just the blues of getting older, Harold finally mentioned it during a routine checkup. His doctor, suspecting a positional culprit, recommended swapping the pillow stack for a single, contoured one designed to cradle the neck while keeping the head neutrally aligned with the spine. Think a firm, ergonomic option that hugs the curve without lifting too high. The transformation was almost immediate. Within a mere 2 to 3 weeks, Harold's wearable heart rate tracker showed a marked drop in those erratic nighttime spikes, averaging a calmer 10 to 15 beats per minute lower. His sleep deepened into that rare, unbroken territory where dreams flow seamlessly, and he woke feeling genuinely refreshed, ready to tackle his workshop projects with renewed vigor. What had masqueraded as an innocuous comfort ritual revealed itself as a silent saboteur, one that a straightforward adjustment neutralized. At its core, your body craves the profound relaxation of nighttime, a sanctuary where muscles unclench, breaths deepen, and vital systems recharge without interference. The heart, in particular, and especially once you've passed the milestone of 60, relies on these hours to dial back its relentless pace, allowing for subtle repairs to its electrical pathways and vascular linings. Anything that prods it into overdrive undermines this essential downtime. So, if backsleeping is your go-to, take a moment for an honest audit of your setup. Aim for that solitary supportive pillow, one with just enough loft to maintain a straight line from your ears through your shoulders and down your spine, ensuring your airway stays open and unobstructed for effortless inhalation. And if subtle clues like snoring that echoes through the house, a dry throat upon waking, or that all-too-familiar grogginess despite clocking 8 hours are part of your routine, why not experiment with sleep position tracking? Affordable apps or wearable devices can map your angles and alert you to patterns. It might require a touch of trial and error, perhaps a slight mattress wedge for elevation without neck strain, but the payoff is profound. Refining your head's alignment isn't about perfection. It's about lightening the invisible burden on your heart, fostering deeper recovery, and greeting each dawn with a steadier, more resilient rhythm. In the grand tapestry of health habits, these understated tweaks often weave the strongest threads of protection, particularly for the tireless engine that powers your every moment. Number 2. Going to bed right after eating a heavy dinner. For countless older adults, the evening meal holds a special ritualistic charm. It's the anchor of the day, a time to unwind from the bustle of errands or light chores, gather around the table with loved ones, and savor a generous spread that nourishes both body and soul. Perhaps it's a comforting casserole bubbling with cheese, a juicy steak paired with buttery potatoes, or a family recipe passed down through generations, rich in flavors that evoke nostalgia. Yet, if the clock strikes bedtime mere minutes or an hour after that substantial feast, you could be unwittingly layering an under-the-radar stress onto your heart, one that simmers beneath the surface of your repose. The physiological fallout begins with the body's innate design for digestion, which evolved around the upright human form. When you consume a heavy dinner laden with proteins, fats, or carbohydrates and then recline horizontally soon afterward, gravity, the reliable ally that normally aids in shuttling food from stomach to intestines, steps aside. Your digestive tract, now operating in a flattened plane, must labor against itself. Stomach muscles contract more forcefully, sphincters tighten to prevent backflow, and peristalsis, those wave-like motions that propel contents along, intensifies to compensate. This escalated effort doesn't happen in a vacuum. It demands a surge in blood supply, diverting a significant portion, up to 20 to 30% more than at rest, to the gut. Consequently, your entire system shifts into a heightened state of alertness, primed for activity rather than the serene descent into sleep your circadian rhythms intend. Compounding this is the post-meal phenomenon known as diet-induced thermogenesis, where the very act of breaking down nutrients generates internal heat and metabolic activity, naturally nudging your heart rate upward by 10 to 20 beats per minute for several hours. This activation engages the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight branch that revs engines across your organs, from dilated pupils to quickened pulse. In an ideal scenario, you'd burn off this energy through a leisurely evening stroll. But when you slide under the covers instead, that elevated cardiac output lingers, transforming what should be a tranquil interlude into a low-grade marathon for your ticker. You might drift off peacefully, but beneath the sheets, your heart hums along at a pace more suited to afternoon errands than midnight renewal. Lurking in the shadows is the ever-present specter of gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, which flares more readily in this scenario. A full, fatty, or spice-heavy meal relaxes the lower esophageal sphincter just as lying down removes gravity's barrier, allowing acidic chyme to reflux upward. This not only triggers that familiar heartburn sting but can provoke reflexive coughing fits, fragmented breathing, or even microarousals that spike adrenaline. Each interruption, however brief, yanks your oxygen levels downward and forces the heart to redline briefly, compounding the night's toll. What starts as mild discomfort evolves into a cycle of fragmented rest, where your cardiovascular system bears the brunt without a vote. Picture George, a jovial 78-year-old with a storyteller's twinkle and a weakness for Italian classics. Every evening at precisely 8 p.m., he'd indulge in a heaping bowl of al dente spaghetti twirled with marinara, meatballs, and a generous grating of Parmesan, followed by a slice of garlic bread that could double as a doorstop. Satisfied and sleepy, he'd shuffle to bed by 9:15, lights out. It was his wind-down routine, unshakable as the tides. But gradually, over months, the pattern frayed. He'd surface from sleep around 2 a.m., heart thundering like a freight train, sheets damp with sweat, mind foggy with disorientation that mimicked the haze of a bad dream. Brushing it off as vivid nightmares from too much TV before bed, George powered through, until a routine physical unearthed erratic heart rhythms on his monitor. A subsequent sleep study painted the full picture. Late-night digestion was fueling sympathetic overdrive, mild reflux was nipping at his airway, and his heart was logging overtime shifts it couldn't sustain. The fix was elegantly simple, yet transformative. Shift dinner to 6 p.m., allowing a full 2-hour buffer, and cap the meal with a gentle 10-minute amble around the block to kickstart gastric emptying upright. Lighter evenings followed, a brothy minestrone with grilled fish and a side of wilted greens, easy on the system. Within a month, George's nocturnal readings evened out. No more palpitations, just the soft, steady cadence of true rest. He joked it was like giving his heart a vacation from the kitchen chaos. Timing, as George discovered, is a quiet architect of wellness. Strive for that generous 2 to 3 hour gap between your final forkful and lights out. It's the sweet spot where digestion hums along vertically, transitioning smoothly to parasympathetic rest and digest mode without dragging your pulse into the fray. If nocturnal hunger is your Achilles heel, perhaps from a medication schedule or lifelong night owl tendencies, reframe dinner as a prelude, not the finale. Opt for digestible delights. Velvety soups simmered with herbs, vibrant steamed veggies like broccoli or zucchini, tender lean proteins such as poached chicken or baked salmon. Shun the sirens of late-day indulgence, creamy sauces, fried temptations, or sodium bombs like cured meats, that prolong gastric residency and provoke hypertensive blips right when your blood vessels yearn to dilate and relax. Remember, sleep is your body's golden hour for orchestration. Hormone balancing, tissue mending, and immune fortification all flourish in its hush. But multitasking a feast's breakdown amid this symphony scatters the notes, leaving your heart as the overworked conductor. By carving out space for unhurried digestion, you're not just easing a meal's aftermath. You're gifting your cardiovascular core the serene, unencumbered repose it craves. Each such night compounds into mornings of clarity, vitality, and a profound lightness in the chest, fortifying the very beat that echoes your life's joys. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Number 3. Waking frequently due to untreated sleep apnea. Among the stealthiest assaults on cardiac health during slumber lurks a condition that flies under the radar for far too many. Obstructive sleep apnea, OSA. A disruptor so pervasive that it affects up to 50% of those over 60, yet often masquerades as an inevitable quirk of aging. If you're in this age bracket and find yourself stirring multiple times hourly, perhaps with a guttural snort, a desperate gasp for air, or that suffocating clutch of breathlessness that leaves you bolt upright, it could be OSA at work, silently taxing your heart with every cycle. At its essence, sleep apnea unfolds as a mechanical betrayal. During relaxation, the soft tissues of your throat, uvula, tonsils, tongue, relax excessively, collapsing inward to partially or wholly obstruct the airway. Breathing halts for 10 seconds or longer. A void your brain detects via plummeting oxygen and surging carbon dioxide. In a flash, it dispatches a jolt, cortical arousal, to restart respiration, often so fleeting you resettle without memory. This drill repeats 5 to 30+ times per hour, or worse in severe cases, fragmenting sleep into a mosaic of micro-traumas, all while your heart endures the fallout. Each apnea event triggers a cascade, blood oxygen desaturates by 4 to 10%, prompting vasoconstriction, narrowed vessels, and a reflexive blood pressure vault of 20 to 40 millimeters of mercury systolic. The sympathetic nervous system floods the scene with catecholamines, adrenaline's kin, escalating heart rate by 10 to 20 bpm and thickening blood for oxygen transport. Chronic repetition begets adaptation gone awry, ventricular hypertrophy, bulked heart walls straining against pressure, endothelial dysfunction, sticky vessels prone to clots, and electrical instability ripe for arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation. For the aging heart, already navigating fibrosis and reduced compliance, this nocturnal gauntlet accelerates atherosclerosis, elevates stroke odds by 2 to 4 times, and hastens heart failure's shadow. The deception deepens because symptoms whisper rather than shout. That light sleeping you chalk up to wisdom's toll? The stress-fueled tossing of your pin on world worries? They're often apnea's veil. Hallmarks cry out, orchestral snoring that rivals a freight train, dawn greetings with a cotton-dry mouth and pounding headache from CO2 buildup, or daytime somnolence so profound you nod off mid-sentence, battling the wheel on drives. Even benign proxies like nocturia, frequent bathroom runs, as apnea spikes urine production, or morning limb numbness from positional hypoxia masquerade as age's gifts. Dismissing them robs your heart of intervention, letting cumulative hits erode its resilience. Envision Linda, a vibrant 76-year-old grandmother whose days brimmed with bridge games and garden tending, yet whose nights dragged like lead. For half a decade, exhaustion had been her shadow, eyelids heavy by noon, motivation a flicker. Aging gracefully, she'd quip, waving off concerns. But her daughter, ever vigilant, catalogued the clues. Mid-chat dozes during family dinners, a nightly sonata of raspy snores that penetrated walls, and mornings etched with irritability. Urged to a home sleep test, a portable rig monitoring airflow, oxygen, and effort, Linda's results unveiled moderate OSA. 18 events per hour, each siphoning her vitality. Enter the CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure mask, a whisper-quiet ally delivering a gentle airstream to keep her airway open. Strapped on that first night, it felt foreign, like donning a sci-fi helmet for bed. But adaptation came swiftly. By week 2, her oxygen troughs vanished, awakenings plummeted, and dawn brought epiphanies of energy. Hikes resumed, laughter flowed freer. Blood pressure, once teetering at 150/90, cascaded to 130/80, a 20-point victory sans pills. It's like reclaiming stolen hours, she'd say, her pulse now a testament to steady poise. Apnea's guises vary. Not every case roars with drama. Subtler sentinels include fragmented repose with vague restlessness, unrefreshing, full nights yielding fatigue, or that insidious partner, central sleep apnea, where the brain falters signals. Yet the heart logs every ledger, denied deep slow wave and REM phases essential for vagal tone, the brake on sympathetic frenzy. It forfeits anti-inflammatory cytokines and growth hormone surges that mend myocardial microdamage. Without reprieve, inflammation festers, fibrosis creeps, and the organ that toiled daylight hours barters endurance for fragility. The beacon of hope? Treatability gleams bright. A polysomnogram or at-home oximeter can unmask it overnight. Options abound from CPAP's reliability to oral appliances repositioning the jaw, positional therapy, side sleeping aids, or even surgical tweaks for anatomy outliers. Lifestyle allies, weight nudges via mindful eating, alcohol's evening embargo, allergen-banishing nasal rinses, amplify gains. If dry mouth parches your AMs, headaches throb like metronomes, or palpitations punctuate your dark, voice it at checkups. No symptoms too trifling. Early tethering averts cascades. Sleep, in its purest form, is your heart Sabbath, a profound hush where beta waves yield to delta's balm, pressures ebb, and baroreceptors recalibrate for diurnal demands. Untreated apnea perverts this into a vigilance vigil, each gasp a toll booth on vitality. Yet you hold the key, awareness unlocks airways, treatment transmutes nights from battlegrounds to sanctuaries. Peaceful inhalations beget profound restorations. Oxygen's steady tide washes repair through weary chambers. You owe yourself this reclamation, not mere survival, but slumber's symphony, where your heart, unburdened, dreams of tomorrows unbound. Number 4. Using alcohol to fall asleep. It's a common ritual for many folks over the age of 60. A soothing glass of red wine unwinding the day's tensions, or perhaps a small nightcap like a splash of whiskey or brandy sipped slowly in the quiet of the evening. In those moments, it can feel like a warm embrace, a gentle nudge toward relaxation after a long day filled with responsibilities, family, or simply the subtle aches of aging. The ritual itself often carries a sense of tradition or comfort, evoking memories of celebrations or quiet evenings past. And for quite a few people, it appears to deliver on its promise. Eyelids grow heavy, thoughts soften, and sleep seems to arrive a little quicker than it might otherwise. But beneath this seemingly benign habit lies a hidden downside that catches many by surprise. What feels like a harmless helper in the short term can, over time, subtly undermine your heart's essential nightly recovery, layering on cumulative stress to your cardiovascular system without any obvious warning signs. To understand why, let's break down the mechanics step by step. At first glance, alcohol's sedative qualities make perfect sense. It's a central nervous system depressant that slows brain activity, fostering that initial drowsy haze. Yet, as your liver works tirelessly to process and metabolize the alcohol over the next several hours, the story shifts dramatically. This metabolism doesn't just happen passively. It triggers a rebound effect in your sleep architecture. The deep, consolidated sleep you crave gets chopped up into shallower, more erratic fragments, robbing you of the prolonged restorative phases that are crucial for overall health. This is particularly problematic during the latter part of the night, right when your body is primed for its deepest recovery work. Your heart, which has been pumping steadily all day, relies on these undisturbed hours to dial back its efforts, slowing its rhythm, easing blood vessel tension, and allowing inflammation to subside. Instead, with alcohol in the mix, your cardiac muscle ends up operating under subtle duress, beating a bit faster and harder than it should, as if it's being prodded to stay alert amid the disruption. Delving deeper, alcohol doesn't stop at fragmenting sleep. It actively tampers with the autonomic nervous system, the intricate network that governs your heart rate, breathing, and blood pressure on autopilot. Throughout the night, you'll notice, or rather, not notice, since you're asleep, how your pulse creeps up irregularly, sometimes spiking in waves that align with those metabolizing hours. This isn't a dramatic surge like during exercise, but a persistent elevation that prevents your heart from dipping into its lowest, most efficient gear. Compounding this, alcohol suppresses the vital deep non-REM and REM sleep stages, those immersive periods where growth hormone releases, tissues mend, and your cardiovascular system truly unwinds. Without them, blood pressure remains stubbornly higher than ideal, sympathetic nervous system activity, the fight or flight mode, lingers longer than it should, and your heart misses out on the full recharge it needs to face the next day's demands with resilience. Consider the real-life story of Calvin, a 72-year-old retired engineer I once had the privilege of chatting with during a community health seminar. Calvin was the picture of affability, sharp-witted, with a penchant for storytelling over coffee. But lately, he'd been troubled by unsettling nighttime palpitations that jolted him awake, leaving him with a racing chest and a foggy mind come morning. For years, he'd relied on 1 or 2 glasses of bourbon before bed, viewing it as a well-earned reward for his active days spent gardening and tinkering in his workshop. He figured it was just an old man's quirk, nothing to fuss over. But when his doctor hooked him up to a wearable overnight heart monitor for a week, the data painted a starkly different picture. Between the witching hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., precisely when the body craves its most profound rest, Calvin's pulse would surge erratically, climbing 15 to 20 beats above his baseline resting rate, as if his heart were revving in neutral. The culprit? Those evening drinks lingered in his system just long enough to sabotage the quiet descent into healing slumber. Motivated by the evidence, Calvin experimented with swapping his nightcap for herbal tea and a short evening walk. The change was transformative. Within days, the palpitations faded entirely. His mornings greeted him with sharper focus and a lighter spirit, and he even reported feeling less on edge during the afternoons, as if a veil of subtle anxiety had lifted. Beyond the direct hit to sleep quality and heart rhythm, alcohol weaves a web of secondary effects that further tax your cardiovascular health. It acts as a diuretic, prompting more frequent nighttime bathroom trips that interrupt sleep and dehydrate you subtly, thickening your blood and making your heart work overtime to circulate it efficiently. It can also trigger fluctuations in body temperature, leading to uncomfortable hot flashes or sweats that jolt you partially awake, and it disrupts your circadian rhythm, the body's master clock, by mimicking daylight signals to your brain. Even breathing takes a hit. Alcohol relaxes throat muscles, heightening the risk of snoring or obstructive sleep apnea episodes, where brief pauses in breath force your heart to compensate with faster beats and higher pressures. For someone over 60, when natural resilience starts to wane, these layered insults add up, quietly eroding the protective buffer around your arteries and increasing vulnerability to issues like atrial fibrillation or hypertension over time. Of course, this isn't a blanket ban on enjoying an occasional drink. Social sips with friends or a celebratory toast have their place in a balanced life. The real red flag emerges when alcohol becomes a go-to crutch for coaxing sleep, night after night, turning a momentary aid into a chronic saboteur. It might grease the wheels for that initial drift into unconsciousness, but it pilfers the profound, uninterrupted slumber your heart yearns for to mend and reset. If insomnia or winding down has become a battleground, pivot toward gentler, heart-friendly allies that nurture rather than undermine. A steamy, soothing shower an hour before bed can mimic the body's natural cool-down, signaling rest without the hangover. Incorporate light stretching, simple poses like child's pose or gentle neck rolls, to release built-up tension from the day. Practice diaphragmatic breathing exercises, inhaling deeply for 4 counts and exhaling for 6, to quiet the mind and steady the pulse. Or craft a sacred wind-down ritual. Dim the lights, journal 3 gratitudes, and sip chamomile tea under soft reading light. These practices don't just ease you into sleep. They anchor you there, fostering the sustained deep waves that allow your heart to exhale fully. Remember, the true essence of restful nights isn't merely closing your eyes. It's sustaining that submerged state long enough for cellular repairs, hormonal harmony, and cardiac renewal to unfold. When alcohol intercepts that process, your heart foots the bill in deferred fatigue and risk, even if the invoice arrives silently at first. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Number 5. Sleeping in a very warm room. There's an undeniable allure to a bedroom enveloped in warmth, especially as the chill of autumn or winter seeps through the cracks on those brisk evenings. For many over 60, it's a sanctuary of softness. Flannel sheets tucked just so, a weighted quilt draped like a protective cloak, and perhaps the faint hum of a space heater casting a golden glow. It whispers of security and ease, a buffer against the world's sharper edges, and in the moment, it cradles the body like an old friend. Yet, as counterintuitive as it might sound, this very coziness can exact a stealthy toll on your heart health over time. What begins as a bid for comfort subtly overrides your body's innate sleep signals, stirring up low-level disruptions that keep your cardiovascular engine idling higher than it needs to through the night. The irony is that most of us chalk up any vague unease to just getting older, overlooking how the room's temperature is quietly pulling strings behind the scenes. At the heart of this, pun somewhat intended, is your body's elegant thermoregulation dance during sleep. As twilight fades and you settle in, your core temperature embarks on a gradual descent, dipping by about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit in a healthy cycle. This isn't random. It's a finely tuned cue orchestrated by your hypothalamus, the brain's thermostat, to whisper to your pineal gland, time to produce melatonin, dim the lights, and usher in rest. That cooling facilitates a cascade of benefits. Your metabolic furnace dials back, conserving energy. Skeletal muscles loosen their grip, easing away the day's postures. And crucially, your heart rate eases into a slower, more economical cadence, often dropping 10 to 20 beats per minute below daytime levels. Blood vessels dilate gently, perfusion improves to vital organs, and the entire system sighs into conservation mode. But introduce a room temperature hovering in the balmy 70s or higher, from overzealous radiators, layered woolens, or sealed-up windows trapping stale air, and this symphony stumbles. Your body, ever the diligent engineer, ramps up countermeasures. Sweat glands activate subtly, blood vessels constrict near the skin to redirect heat inward, and your respiratory rate ticks up to expel warmth. These adaptations, while minor on their own, demand extra cardiac output, nudging your heart to pump a touch harder and faster just to maintain equilibrium. The cumulative impact on your heart is where the subtlety turns significant. That ongoing thermostatic tug-of-war prevents your cardiovascular system from coasting into its deepest repose, where blood pressure ebbs to its nadir and vagal tone. The parasympathetic rest and digest branch dominates fully. Instead, you hover in a semi-alert state. Heart rate lingers 5 to 10 beats higher than optimal. Systolic pressure refuses to trough as deeply, and subtle vasoconstriction keeps arterial walls under mild tension. Over months or years, this chronic microstrain can erode endothelial function, the inner lining of your blood vessels that keeps things supple and inflammation-free, paving a slippery slope towards stiffness, plaque buildup, or erratic rhythms. Sleep quality suffers too. Warmer environs shorten slow wave and REM durations, leaving you with fragmented cycles that feel adequate in hours but lack depth, often manifesting as that all-too-familiar morning grogginess or mid-afternoon slump. Layer on the ripple effects. and the picture sharpens. Warm, often arid indoor air, exacerbated by winter heating systems, saps humidity from the environment, turning your sinuses and airways into parched terrain. This prompts mouth breathing over the more efficient nasal route, reducing oxygen saturation ever so slightly and forcing compensatory, quicker heartbeats to deliver what your tissues need. Dehydration sneaks in as a silent accomplice. Even a 1 to 2% fluid loss overnight thickens plasma, elevating its viscosity and compelling your heart to exert more force with each contraction, much like pushing syrup through pipes instead of water. For those in their 60s and beyond, when kidney function and thirst signals naturally blunt, this mild desiccation hits harder, amplifying risks for orthostatic hypotension upon rising or nocturnal hypertension spikes. Take Susan, an 81-year-old widow and avid knitter whose evenings were spent in a nest of Afghans and a bedroom thermostat stubbornly set to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. She prided herself on creating a hygge haven, as she called it, complete with thick flannel pajamas and a hot water bottle at her feet, convincing herself it warded off the joint stiffness that plagued her mornings. But lately, she'd been stirring with a cocktail of symptoms: cotton-mouthed awakenings, dull headaches that lingered like fog, and an elusive tightness across her chest that she dismissed as indigestion from her late-night herbal remedies. Her annual checkup revealed mildly elevated overnight blood pressure readings, flagged by a home monitor, and her physician, suspecting environmental factors, recommended a simple audit. Dial the thermostat to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, opt for breathable cotton layers, and introduce a bedside humidifier. Susan was skeptical at first. "I'll freeze like a popsicle." But compliance brought swift clarity. By week's end, her sleep log showed longer uninterrupted stretches, the headaches evaporated, and that chest pressure dissolved into a distant memory. Mornings now hummed with vitality. She joked about feeling 5 years younger, with enough pep to tackle the crossword before breakfast. Her follow-up metrics confirmed it. Steadier heart rates and deeper dips in pressure, proof that alignment with her body's cues could unlock profound renewal. Science backs this up with clear guidelines. The sweet spot for sleep temperature hovers between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit for most adults, a range that harmonizes with our evolutionary wiring for cooler nights in ancestral caves. This chillier backdrop not only accelerates sleep onset by amplifying melatonin's potency but sustains those immersive cycles where your heart reaps the lion's share of benefits: lower workload, enhanced baroreflex sensitivity for blood pressure control, and bolstered anti-inflammatory pathways. To ease into it without revolt, start small. Nudge the dial down 2 to 3 degrees weekly, layering with removable sheets or a fan for gentle circulation. Prop a window ajar for fresh oxygen influx, or invest in moisture-wicking bedding that hugs without smothering. Your lungs will breathe easier, your brain will fog less, and your heart, grateful for the reprieve, will settle into rhythms that echo true tranquility. In essence, when your sleep space conspires with your physiology rather than clashing against it, your heart claims the unhurried downtime it's craved since sunrise, fortifying you for whatever the day unfurls. Number 6. Maintaining irregular sleep-wake times. As the years accumulate and we cross into our 60s and beyond, our physiology increasingly craves the poetry of patterns, a steady cadence to the ebb and flow of daily life that mirrors the reliable spin of the earth. Nowhere is this more vital than in the orchestration of our sleep-wake cycle, that foundational pulse dictating when we surrender to dreams and when we greet the dawn. Yet, in the freedom of retirement or the flux of later life schedules, grandkids visits, impromptu errands, or the pull of a late-night book, it's easy to let bedtimes drift like leaves in the wind. 10 p.m. one evening, midnight the next, rising with the roosters on Tuesday, lingering under covers until brunch on Sunday. Even if the total tally of hours slumbers adds up to 7 or 8, this inconsistency sows seeds of discord within, exacting a stealthy toll on your heart that builds like interest on an overlooked debt. The linchpin here is your circadian rhythm, that exquisite 24-hour orchestra conducted by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your hypothalamus, attuned to light, meals, and movement. This internal metronome doesn't just cue sleepiness. It masterfully synchronizes a symphony of bodily functions tailored to your heart's endurance. Hormones like melatonin crest at dusk to break alertness, cortisol ebbs low overnight to foster repair, and ghrelin-leptin balances curb midnight munchies that could spike sugars and strains. Blood pressure follows suit, cresting mid-morning for action and plunging deepest in the wee hours for cardiac respite. Heart rate variability, the subtle fluctuations signaling robust adaptability, thrives on this predictability, enhancing resilience against stressors. When your sleep anchors are firm, your body anticipates, winding down with lowered sympathetic drive, transitioning seamlessly through sleep stages, and awakening refreshed with a hormonal handoff primed for the day. But inject variability, bedtimes veering by hours, wake-ups chasing whims, and the conductor falters. Sightgabers, time givers like consistent darkness, lose their cue, desynchronizing peripheral clocks in your liver, muscles, and arteries. The result? A physiological jet lag, where your system scrambles to recalibrate, mistiming peaks and troughs. This misalignment doesn't manifest as overt chaos but as insidious internal friction. Cortisol, the stress sentinel, surges erratically, perhaps peaking too early in the night, goosing your heart rate when it yearns to decelerate, or lagging into mornings, fueling a wired yet weary haze. Adrenaline tags along, sensitizing beta receptors in your cardiac tissue for hair trigger responses, while blood pressure adopts a jagged profile, insufficient nocturnal dips, non-dipping hypertension, that deny your arteries their vasodilatory vacation, elevating shear stress on vessel walls. Over time, this rhythmic rebellion correlates with heightened risks. Studies link shift-like irregularities in older adults to a 20 to 30% uptick in cardiovascular events, insulin resistance, and even amyloid plaque whispers hinting at cognitive crossroads. It's the when, not just the how much, that forges or frays your heart's fortitude. Fragmented timing erodes the entrainment that buffers against inflammation, oxidative damage, and endothelial wear. Walter's tale illustrates this poignantly. At 80, this former schoolteacher reveled in retirement's liberties, his calendar a tapestry of spontaneity, holing up for a doubleheader baseball marathon past 1 a.m. one night, then crashing early after a dinner with friends. Mornings alternating between dawn birdwatching at 6 o'clock and lazy 10 a.m. lions fueled by the newspaper. He prided himself on living in the moment, but the toll crept in, a perpetual undercurrent of fatigue that no nap could quench, coupled with heart flutters that danced unpredictably, sometimes mid-afternoon, leaving him clutching his chest in quiet alarm. His cardiologist, reviewing a Holter monitor's tracery, pinpointed the pattern: erratic overnight rates, with peaks where valleys should reign, and blood pressure refusing to ebb below 130/80. The prescription? Anchored to consistency, a bedtime and wake-up slotted within a 60-minute window daily, rain or shine, bookended by a ritual of decaf tea and dimmed lamps. Walter embraced it warily, syncing his watch as a gentle enforcer. In a fortnight, the shift was seismic. Vitality surged like a long-dormant spring, flutters hushed to echoes, and monitor readouts gleamed with smoother sine waves, heart rates dipping gracefully into the 50s, pressures carving true nocturnal nadirs. He quipped, "Who knew my ticker was such a creature of habit? Now I feel like I'm dancing to the same old tune, but with better rhythm." Your heart, after all, is no rogue adventurer. It's a metronome molded by millennia of solar fidelity, yearning for the reassurance of recurrence to modulate its labors optimally. Deviations as modest as 30 minutes can nudge clock genes like clock and PR off-kilter, amplifying vulnerability, yet the converse holds magic. Regularity recalibrates swiftly, often in days. If sleep has devolved into a squeeze-in afterthought amid life's improvisations, reclaim it as a cornerstone worth safeguarding. Architect a twilight liturgy, perhaps a 9 p.m. screen curfew, followed by progressive muscle relaxation or aromatic lavender diffusion, to herald repose. Greet each sunrise identically, even on lazier Sundays, with sunlight exposure or a brisk constitutional to reset the axis. Track it loosely in a bedside ledger to celebrate streaks, and forgive slips with grace, not guilt. Your physiology will attune with surprising agility, bestowing not just sounder slumbers but a diurnal equipoise, unwavering vigor, tempered pressures, and a cardiac cadence that hums with hardiness. In weaving sleep into life's warp and weft as an inviolable thread, not a flexible fringe, you bestow upon your heart a timetable of tranquility, a perennial present that accrues the profoundest dividends in endurance and ease, no matter the chapters yet to unfold. As we wrap up this journey through the subtle ways your sleep habits can either shield or strain your heart, from that sneaky pillow height to the timing of your last bite, the whispers of untreated apnea, the lure of a nightcap, the cozy trap of a warm room, and the chaos of erratic bedtimes. Remember, small tweaks tonight could mean a stronger, steadier heartbeat for years to come. You've got the knowledge now. It's all about turning awareness into action for a more restorative night and a healthier you. What have you learned so far that hit home the most? Drop a comment below sharing one key takeaway you'll bring into practice in your life, whether it's flattening that pillow stack, shifting dinner earlier, or committing to a cooler, clockwork bedtime routine, and let's inspire each other in the comments. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, And subscribe to our YouTube channel for more life-changing tips on aging gracefully with a heart that's built to last. Thanks for watching, sweet dreams, and see you next time.